This is going to be a tough play. Bryant, the Cubs winning the World Series.
A fly ball, shallow right, playable. Coming in is Hayward. No-hitter for Arrieta. Jake Arrieta pitches a no-hitter here at the Great American Ballpark.
There's a drive. Deep left center. Cubs win. They win it. Ramirez, 2-run shot.
Someday, the Chicago Cubs are going to be in the World Series, and maybe sooner than we think.
Hello and welcome back to the Cubs Career. I'm your host, Logan Stump, and with me today again is nobody. Hopefully one day I can kind of fill that seat, but until then, it'll just be me talking some Cubs. And anybody that wants to kind of shout out some questions, more than happy to answer them or talk to you guys on the show. Looking to have some people on to kind of preview some of these Cubs series that are coming up. So if you know anybody that you kind of want to have on so we can talk, whether it be the Pirates, Rockies, we can talk Brewers, we can talk Cardinals, anybody that comes to mind that you think would kind of be good to have on the show, and maybe we can preview some of the opposing teams that are coming into Wrigley Field or who we're going to go visit on the road. So again, I'm your host, Logan Stump, back for a second episode. So looking forward to getting this started. The Cubs season started, guys. It's finally here. Thursday, opening day, it was upon us. It was quickly upon us. A 2:20 start time. I had the day off, so I was able to watch all-day baseball, which is always a good thing. And we're going to get into those games. We had 4 against the Brewers, but unfortunately Friday, due to inclement weather, a little bit of frost, a little bit of looked like rain and some sleet maybe. The Cubs game was called off on Friday, so we only got 3 of the 4 games in this weekend. But overall, a really good weekend, and honestly, I think a shocking one for a lot of people around the league. If you look at the standings, you can kind of tell as to why we're so positive here on the north side, I think, as far as the Cubs are concerned. And, just kind of looking over these results and looking at the way that the Cubs pitching has kind of come together. It's going to be a lot of talking points over the next couple of minutes that I have you to talk all Cubs and Brewers. But let's get into it. First game, the Cubs against the Brewers at Wrigley Field. And the Cubs came out. Their opening lineup, the opening day lineup was Rafael Ortega DHing, Nick Madrigal at second base, Wilson Contreras catching, Ian Happ in left field, Frank Schwindel at first base, Seiya Suzuki in right field, Jason Hayward in center field, Patrick Wisdom at third base, and Nico Horner at shortstop. Really like this lineup. We had talked about certain instances where the Cubs would be looking at their bench players, more so, I think, just to kind of give younger guys a chance. I think over the next couple of games, as David's getting people rest, especially these first couple of weeks out of the gate, you really like to get your guys some rest. And he's going to interchange some of these guys in the lineup. We saw that in game 3 against the Brewers, which was on Sunday. We saw some changes of the regulars that were just kind of, they're getting back into the fold. They're getting back in the mix of things. So you're going to see guys disappear out of the lineup. I saw on Twitter a lot of people questioning different choices, but I think ultimately that's what you're going to see. David does a really good job of this. Joe Madden did a really nice job of this. And David, I think, took a lot from what Joe really preached, and that was just keeping guys fresh, keeping guys on their toes, keeping them in games, because as the dog days of summer approach in June and July, you really want as many guys firing on all cylinders as possible, just because it's easier to kind of plug and go instead of having to have some of these guys play 140 to 150 games in a season, and that can be taxing on guys. I don't think a lot of people are aware of just how taxing this league and this season can be on Major League Baseball players. But overall, I thought David did a nice job in this series, mixing and matching just some of the matchups that we saw in Game 3, as well as Game 1 too. So let's get into it. Game 1, the Cubs faced Corbin Burnes, former NL Cy Young winner of last year, the reigning NL Cy Young winner is, I guess, the more proper term there. But when you face a guy like Corbin Burnes, you really do expect a low-scoring game. You expect Corbin to throw strikes. Threw strikes really well last year. And honestly, I mean, I went into the game thinking that this game could go about one way, and I thought it was going to be the Corbin Burnes way. I thought that this easily was the worst matchup for the Cubs going into the game. But boy, was I wrong. I think the Cubs have kind of changed their approach, and we'll get into that a little bit as we head into the episode and talk a little bit more about the series as a whole. But I was really impressed. So they're facing Corbin Burnes. Corbin Burnes, for those that don't know Corbin, last year, batting average against, hitters hit 201 against him with an on-base percentage of 248, a slugging of 273, and an OPS of 521. If you don't know anything about statistics and anything like that for baseball, that's phenomenal. That is a very difficult feat. And the Cubs at times had struggled making contact last year, especially. Really did have a high swing and miss rate. And a couple of their players that we're going to rely on a ton this year have the tendency to swing and miss. So when Corbin Burnes is on the mound, you do expect a high number of strikeouts, high number of swings and misses, and not really a high walk rate. If you look back at the walk rate from last year, he had a 5.2% based on balls percentage. So it's based on balls divided by all plate appearances. And he really does. He limits walks. He doesn't allow guys to get on base. Again, one of the best, if not the best pitcher in probably both leagues. And Corbin Burnes throws real hard, gets a lot of weak contact. It's just a really tough pitcher to face. Throws a fastball quite a bit, gets a lot of ground balls. Last year, he had 49.3% ground ball rate or percentage, which was really high. So, again, I think looking at the stats, looking at the projected lineups, looking at the projected matchup here, I think a lot of people thought that this would be a really tough game for the Cubs. One run might win the game. But that just wasn't the case. So getting into the actual game itself, Kyle Hendricks was set to square off against Corbin Burnes. And Hendricks threw really well. 5 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 3 base on balls, had 7 Ks, which now racks up to 1.69 ERA. Got a lot of, guys to ground out, a lot of weak contact, which you really like to see with Kyle. In the past, if Kyle's really struggled, it seems like he's always struggled early on in the games. But as Kyle settles down, Kyle becomes more efficient. And I would actually even argue that the more times through the lineup, actually, the more effective Kyle could be, just because he starts to work in that changeup. He starts to really get control of the changeup. He's really tried to kind of get that curveball down. Last year, he had talked about it, and they alluded to it during the game where he talked to David in the offseason when they could talk and in spring training. He was talking about the fact that he had just gotten away with he'd gotten away from what works for Kyle. And Kyle admitted that the bet when he's at his best, it's when he can throw the ball down in the zone, get those ground out, get the weak contact. And he did just that on Thursday, which, I mean, honestly, if you're a Cubs fan, this is ideal. This is vintage Kyle Hendricks. This is 2016 Kyle Hendricks. This is 2015 Kyle Hendricks. A guy that looked absolutely phenomenal, looked unhittable at times. Once he got that curveball going, and he was able to kind of mix in his pitches, because that's really important with him and keeping the ball down in that zone. He really honed in on a lot of these really tough Brewer hitters. And to be fair, I mean, he really did have pretty much no trouble throughout the game going through the order, just giving up that 1 run in the 4th inning. But seriously, I mean, it was a game that you look at and go, man, if we can get more of those games from Kyle Hendricks and more of those games that he just seems to control and demand the strike zone, it's going to be easier for the Cubs to be more successful in his starts. But ultimately, a very good start to the season, and really a good outing from the starting pitching, which we'll get into. We had some really great starting pitching for the Cubs, which was, I think, a breath of fresh air for Cub fans because it's been just so long since we've had that in Chicago. So looking at the stats, Ian Happ had 2 doubles in which he was he hit 4 times, 3 hits, 2 RBIs, 2 doubles. One off Burns, one off Jake Cousins. Clint Frazier came in and would end up pinch hitting for the DH, Rafael Ortega. He got a double. Nico Horner hit a home run off Corbin Burns in the 5th. And Nico flashed a little bit of power here in the 5th inning, which gave the Cubs that 3-run 5th. And then never really looked back from there for the Cubbies. I mean, honestly, it really was. It felt like a game the Cubs controlled. They did end up tying it, the Brewers in the 7th. The Cubs then go in and tack on 2. Then the Brewers come out, get 1 in the 8th. And then after that, the Cubs bullpen finally shakes up and slams the door. Save was given to David Robertson, who I thought, over the couple of games that he pitched, I thought he pitched pretty well in the series. But we'll kind of get into the bullpen troubles that the Cubs had later on when we get to Sunday. You know what? I do want to talk a little bit about the Brewers in this sense. The Brewers come in with an offense that I thought was pretty potent. So their opening day their lineup was Colton Wong, second base, Willie Adames at shortstop, Christian Yelich in left field, Andrew McCutchen at DH, Rowdy Tellez at first base, Hunter Renfroe in right field, Omar Narvaez at behind the dish, Lorenzo Cain center field, Jace Peterson at third base for the time being. But again, a Brewer lineup that is pretty staunch, and I think that with Andrew McCutchen kind of filling in that 4 spot, a pretty decent 4 gap. I mean, a 4-hole hitter, and a guy that always seems to play against the Cubs pretty well. So, looking at that lineup and the fact that Kyle handled it so well was really astonishing, and I think it speaks volumes going forward because I think it gives Kyle that extra boost as he goes forward into the next couple series up against the Pirates, up against the Rockies. I think they played the Pirates twice, so he won't get to pitch against the Pirates. But I think he faced the Rockies in Coors, which is never fun. But again, really like this start from Kyle. Really like this game from the Cubs. Michael Givens gets the win. Aaron Ashby gets the loss. And I'm recording on Monday the 11th, and the Brewers and the Orioles are currently playing. It was 2-0 last time I had checked, and Aaron Ashby was getting in all sorts of trouble in walking guys. And the Brewers look like they're going to start 1-3 here. They're losing 2-0 to the Orioles, like I said, in the Orioles home opener. And my co-host over on Extra Innings Baseball Show, Jordan, is at the game. But again, it's concerning because the Brewers have been so reliant upon pitching that, throw strikes, get ground balls, strike guys out. But so far, it hasn't really been that for the Brewers. Early on, it's been a lot of struggles finding the plate. And the game on Thursday between Burns and Ashby and Cousins, they had 4 walks, 5.62 ERA. And really just kind of lacked that consistency, especially Corbin Burns, to walk 3 guys. I think they had said that he didn't walk like 3 guys all year last year for a stretch of unbelievable amount of starts. I think it was like months where he had gone without walking anybody. And then he goes and gives up 3 walks to the Cubs. And I tell you what, the biggest thing for me is the Cubs look about as patient as they've looked since Madden was there. I kind of relate it back to the time when they did have Fowler, and even more so now because, they had guys like Chris Bryant, who wasn't as patient, Javi Baez, who wasn't as patient, Wilson Contreras is a big swing and miss guy. But, man, the Cubs look so disciplined in these games. And we'll just kind of talk about that as a whole as we get towards the back end of just kind of looking over this series and what the Cubs have done to open up this. The Cubs get the win. 5-4. They beat the Brewers on Thursday on opening day. Crowd was great, 35,000 plus. sellout. It was quite the scene just to see Seiya Suzuki in his debut. And speaking of Seiya, an unbelievable run of games here to kind of introduce himself to the Cubs faithful. And it goes to say that when you add guys like this to the lineup, it almost forces everybody around them to be patient. And he saw a lot of pitches. He saw 19 pitches in game one against the Brewers. And a guy that I think is going to just implement this plate discipline that I think that the Cubs have been missing for so long. Rafael Ortega saw as a leadoff hitter, he saw a lot of pitches this weekend. When you're looking up and down the lineup, 15 pitches for Ortega and 2 official at bats. You had Nick Madrigal in 3 at bats, 16 pitches. You had Wilson Contreras see 13, which I believe was the lowest. Yeah, which was the lowest of the day. And that I think that makes sense, right? I think Wilson, much more of a free swinger. Ian Happ actually saw 21 pitches. Pretty patient approach from Ian so far. And we'll talk about just on how much on a roll Ian Happ is. He had 2 doubles in that first game and really hasn't looked back since. Did get hit by a pitch on, what would that have been, Saturday, and didn't play on Sunday. But again, let me just read these off. 15 pitches, 16 pitches, 13, 21, 18, 19, 16, 15, 15. Most of those in 3 or 4 bats that these guys saw. So they're running deep into counts. They're getting on base. They're taking their walks. Suzuki had 2 walks. He had a hit. He scored his first run in that first game. The hit was to left field where he kind of gets overextended a little bit, but he kind of just pokes it into left. And I think you're just going to see that patient approach. He had a couple of times in the outfield this weekend also where he's starting to try to get comfortable, I think, in Wrigley. There's actually one, if you go back and look at the highlights, Jason Hayward cuts in front of him from center field where Hayward had been playing, and he cuts in front of him just to get the ball, which, it's a good play from Jason. He had plenty of time to get up underneath it. And I think it kind of took off the pressure because Suzuki, I don't think, saw it quite away. Like the first thing that he saw was the sun right away, and it really did kind of delay his reaction to the fly ball. But then he ends up getting to it. I think that was on Saturday that he did that. But again, overall, Seiya Suzuki, he starts off this first game so well, and then the games to come were just unbelievable. It shows just how special this guy could be for the Chicago Cubs this year. So moving on to Saturday. Justin Steele gets the ball against Brandon Woodruff. Another guy that could be up there in the Cy Young mentions, a guy that the Brewers are touting as being one of the top arms in the game as well. If you look back at Woodruff's year last year, he had 9 wins, 10 losses. He had a 2.56 ERA in 30 games started. His whip last year was a .965, so it shows you just how good the top end of this rotation is, including Freddie Peralta, who we'll see in Sunday's game. So just a pretty good a group of dudes, right? Unbelievable in the way that they just don't walk guys. And again, the Cubs were patient and drew 3 walks out of him. Jose Urena, 3 walks out of him. He comes in right after Woodruff. Woodruff only lasts 3 2/3 inning on Saturday. Gave up 7 earned runs, walked 3, only struck out 2. Finishes with a 17.18 ERA. And just really couldn't locate the zone. Had 89 pitches in that 3 2/3 innings. Again, location was critical for these Brewers pitchers because the Cubs were just so patient in the amount of time that they spent at the plate, fouling balls off, looking at balls. And we'll get into Say a little bit more here again too. But I mean, just the Cubs approach has just been absolutely phenomenal. Just not a lot of swings and misses, not a lot of chasing really. I mean, they've kept one of the lowest rates in chasing the ball in these first 3 games, league high, I believe. So just an unbelievable amount of success so far at the plate, which is a really pleasant surprise. I think a lot of people coming in thought that the Cubs would have a hard time really staying consistent in their hitting. And I think they've really proven people that if they can stay patient, they can stay on top of things. This year might be a little bit more special than I think some thought for the Chicago Cubs. I think the way that they played over the last couple of games, you don't want to get too high on too much, but they really did. They look like a competitive team that'll be chasing some of the top teams in this division, at least making it competitive for them for the rest of the year, and really challenging the Brewers and the Cardinals to play even better baseball than they played last year. So let's talk about Justin Steele. I call him John Lester Light just because the way that he looks on the mound and just kind of his demeanor. He's got a real nice slider that he throws. Threw it, I want to say he threw it, what was it? I don't think I have it there. Yeah, I don't have it here. But he threw 77 pitches, threw the slider quite a bit, 46 strikes. He had 28 strikes by contact. So guys putting ball in play, but very weakly. Again, I thought he looked phenomenal. He had 7 ground balls, 5 ground balls given up, only 3 line drives and not crushed. So, I mean, he looked dominant. And in 5 innings, 4 hits, 77 pitches. I mean, there was an argument that he could have stayed in a little bit longer. He kind of came to the end of the that point early in the season where you just got to keep a guy on a short leash, just so you can have him for the rest of the season going forward healthy and keep that arm as fresh as possible. But Keegan Thompson comes in, and we'll get into it, I guess, here. The Cubs, and I want to say, hold on, I want to look up the hit rate by Wilson Contreras. Because the Cubs, the Brewers continuously hit Wilson Contreras 14 times, I believe it is, 58 out of 58 career hit by pitches out of 14. 58 hit by pitches on Wilson Contreras, 14 have come from the Brewers. I believe that was updated before he got hit again. I want to say that he got a hit again. But anyway, the percentage is astronomical in the fact that they just could not stop hitting Wilson Contreras. And the dust-up continues between the Brewers and Wilson Contreras. Contreras started to kind of get irritated when he was plunked. I think he was plunked twice in this series. Got to double-check that just to make sure that that's right. I had that as twice, I think, in the series, but for some reason I can't remember, and my laptop's not loading. Let's see. Yeah, hit by pitch twice. Second time he's plunked, and I don't know. You kind of had that feeling that after the second time that he's plunked, that he was ultimately going to go after somebody on the Brewers. And that just so happens to be Andrew McCutchen. So I believe that was, I want to say it was later on in the game. It was, I want to say it was top of the 6th. No, sorry. Top of the 8th. Top of the 8th with 2 outs. Keegan Thompson launches a ball. First time he misses. And I don't know how Andrew McCutchen got out of the way of that one. It was like one of those ones that it was so close it should have hit him, but it didn't. He somehow got his body contorted enough to get out of the way. The second one was a fastball, and you can always tell when a guy throws on purpose. He kind of has Keegan Thompson throws, and he's got like this kind of side angle to where he lets go of the ball quickly out of his hand, and you can tell it's going right for his behind. Hits Andrew McCutchen right in the backside. And that's when Andrew McCutchen says, hey, the first time you missed, the second time you're throwing at me again, you're trying to hurt me at this point. And he, says some other words. You can see him lipping it towards the group. Jason Hayward comes flying in from center field. Benches clear. I don't think the benches would have cleared had the Brewers. So the Brewers players were kind of over the dugout fence. And as soon as that happens, they kind of like straddled it. But as soon as McCutcheon had more to say as he was walking further and further, the Brewer bullpen comes out. And then that's when the Cubs outfielders like Hayward rush towards the crowd of guys out on the field. And then that's when the bullpen's empty. And they come flying in, and then they start the shoving match. No punches were thrown. Nobody was injured, thank goodness. Keegan Thompson was ejected, which was really kind of unfortunate because I thought Keegan had thrown really well in this game. And I thought, unfortunate because he had to kind of exit at this point. He probably left at the next point, but he did, man. He threw really well. 4 strikeouts. He had a base on balls in 2 2/3 innings. But he came in right after Justin Steele and threw phenomenally. A young guy in Keegan Thompson, who the Cubs, I think, are going to be relying upon. And over the next couple of years, they really hope to kind of develop him, maybe getting some really good bullpen arm stuff out of him, the top of the line bullpen guy, if they can get him going. And I think he can be stretched out a little bit if need be. He threw 2 2/3 innings here. So I think 3 or 4 innings isn't out of the question for Keegan, and kind of getting longer innings into that rotation eventually as he gets older. But yeah, I mean, the Cubs bullpen had looked pretty strong up until this point, a little bit shaky in that first game. They kind of let the Brewers sneak a little bit back into it. This game was dominance from the get-go. The Cubs just kind of reading out through the box score, 3 runs in that first inning. And that first inning, that those first 3 runs really just kind of solidified the dominance that the Cubs are going to have over the next couple of innings. Cubs strike for 3 in that first inning against Brandon Woodruff. Then they get another run in the third when Suzuki singles to center field. He scores Happ. And then Seiya Suzuki also gets a walk in which he scores Wilson Contreras with bases loaded. And the guy just had a day, had an absolute day for the Cubs, sitting in that 6th spot again. He went 1 for 3. He had 3 RBIs, walked once, struck out twice. And I think you're going to see that a lot. I think you're going to see that score line quite a bit, where he kind of goes through these stretches of striking out quite a bit and then walking a ton. I think he'll walk a ton. I think you'll see some strikeouts, which won't be shocking because I think he's so patient. He knows to look at those borderline calls sometimes. Sometimes they come back to bite him, but for the most part, he did a really, really great job of just keeping the ball about where he wants it every single time. I mean, it's so hard to throw to him. He saw 22 pitches, which was great, and 3 official at-bats. He had the 1 walk and the 2 strikeouts, but saw 22 pitches. Ian Happ saw 28 again. Really patient approach from Ian, which I love so far. Patrick Wisdom saw 31 pitches and 5 at-bats, which was great as well. Contreras saw 22 pitches. So again, it just speaks volumes to this team so far and early on, because they're looking like they're going to be a really patient club. And I love that. The Cubs finally we went from a ton of strikeouts to guys not getting on base to now one of the top teams currently in the league. I know it's only 3 games in, it's early in the season. But I mean, if you go up and down the lineup, I would really consider Wisdom, maybe Happ, and Contreras free swinging guys that aren't going to take a ton of walks. Happ's done a lot better and kind of getting better at taking those walks, and especially since he's become that guy in the lineup that you really depend upon. He's really kind of cut down on the strikeouts a little bit, and really has taken more walks than when he first came up. It was like either Ian struck out or got a hit, and the game or the years prior. But Happ, I mean, looks phenomenal. He gets 2 hits here, drove in 2, walked once, scored 3 runs, in 5 plate appearances and 3 official at bats. So again, great start for Ian Happ, 7-14 after this game with a 778 OBP and a slugging percentage of 1,000, OPS of 1.778. And unfortunately, gets drilled here. That's who it was. I believe that's who started it. It hit him in the knee. A slider in from Woodruff hits him. And and that's when he has to go out. Clint Frazier comes in, and I think that right after that, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Right after that, it was when Keegan Thompson plugs Andrew McCutchen, and that's when all chaos breaks loose. But 4 hits for the Brewers, again, continuously struggling. Andrew McCutchen hit really well. Willie Adames hit really well this series, but Christian Yelich, I was watching him play. I don't know what the current score is. It's April 11th, 6:03 currently Eastern time. They were just playing the Orioles, and he had struck out just recent when I saw him in his last at bat before I came in here to record. But he really does look a mess, and it stinks because this is a guy that I think had the chance to be one of those top players in the league. It just hasn't been that over the last couple of years. It's good for the Cubs. It stinks for the Brewers and Brewer fans. He hit 248 last year, which was decent. It wasn't great. Definitely not a Christian Yelich type of year. Only had 9 home runs and 51 RBIs. Played in a limited amount of games at 117. He did play in 2020, that shortened season, where he only hit 205. But before that, this guy was an MVP candidate for 2 years straight. Hit 326 and then 329 in that 2019. In 2019, that's the year where he hit 44 home runs. And then 2018 was probably his best year. And he won MVP and hit 36 homers, had 110 RBIs, and was just that dominant force in the lineup that it was almost like if you threw to him, chances were the guy was going to get a hit or a homer. He always got a hit in the game. It seemed like every 3 at-bats, every 3 at-bats he had a hit, which was just insane, especially at this point in the game where now we're looking at a 240 to 260 batting average. We're going, that's pretty decent. Just because the pitching has gotten so good and the ball has kind of been deadened. But overall, the second game, the Cubs just absolutely obliterate the Brewers. They go 9-0 on the Brewers. And to be honest with you, I was heading into Sunday with Stroman going to the mound going, this is really bad for the Brewers. I mean, this is prime time to get a sweep because the Brewers are down and beaten. And you got Marcus Stroman coming in, who's going to be absolutely jacked in his Wrigley Field debut. And he did. He came out firing on all cylinders. So let's look at game 3. The Cubs lose 5-4 against the Brewers. But, man, did it start out in probably the most opportune way for the Cubbies. And that was Seiya Suzuki launching his first home run as a Chicago Cub deep into the bleachers on a hanging slider that Freddie Peralta probably wanted back as soon as he threw it. And Seiya gets us out to a 3-0 start. Man, I'm feeling great. I'm elated. I haven't been this excited for a long time for the Cubs. But, man, it just seemed like this was just an absolute dominant performance coming out these first 3 games, absolutely just smashing up the Brewers. And I thought, I was kind of hoping we just kind of tack it on, throw up another 6 or 8 runs, just to kind of shove it to the Brew Crew. But then, again, they start slowly tacking away. Top of the third, they get a run back. Cubs looking good. Stroman feeling fine. And if you kind of look at the end stat line for Stroman, 5 innings pitched. He comes out after the 5th. He had 2 hits, 1 run, 1 earned run. Had only thrown 79 pitches. And then I'm in agreement here where I thought it was strange. I thought he could have gone at least 1 more inning, or at least, where they go out, throw him against the hitters coming up in that 6th inning and see what he's got, and then pull him as soon as he gets in trouble. He walked 3, he struck out 3, so he wasn't real wild. He had been effectively wild, I guess you could say. Got a ton of ground balls, absolutely just lived on the ground, just getting Brewer hitters just pound the ground. And I thought 6 innings would have been good. I mean, he's at 79 pitches. If he threw 90, maybe that's pushing up towards where you don't really want to be starting, the year. But again, I mean, this guy, he's just built for that. And I thought they were giving him a little bit longer of a leash. And unfortunately, the Cubs don't. In the 6th inning, Brewers tack on 3. That's when Willie Adames was, he homered off of Stroman in the 3rd. Rowdy Tellez tacks on a homer against Jesse Chavez, and that's when the Cubs kind of fell apart a little bit. The bullpen didn't look as sharp. Jesse Chavez, who had major success when he had come over to the Cubs a couple of years ago from the Rangers, really just kind of imploded. You don't see that from Jesse. Jesse gets a lot of swings and misses. His stuff's not powerful, but it definitely does get annoying, and it's hard to hit. Throws all sorts of different speeds at you, throws that slider, throws that fastball, can drop off a curve if he needs. But he just didn't come through on this one. He leads with a 40.50 ERA, gives up 3 earned runs on the rowdy Tellez bomb, did end up walking the leadoff hitter, never good. Then comes back after the home run, strikes a guy out, but a little too late. The Brewers tack on, get up by 1, ends up being 4-3. And then the Cubs at back. The Cubs come back and smack one against the Brewers, get a run, go back 4-4, clawing, getting back into it. As they got into the bottom of the 7th, the Cubs get behind top of the 7th. Mike Brousseau hits a home run off of Daniel Norris, a no-doubter, crushed it. Kid grew up in Wrigley, dreamt of hitting a home run at Wrigley Field, hits one into left center bleachers, and that pretty much is all she wrote. The Cubs couldn't quite come back. They had an instance where Jonathan Villar hit grounds one, almost beats it. A lot of people were saying on Twitter that he beat it. They show there's an angle where it does look like he's touching the bag right before the ball reaches first base. But I think it was just so close that you couldn't overturn it. I think that's ultimately where I land on that. Obviously, through my bias lenses, he looks safe. But again, it's got to be clear and cut and without any hesitation or doubt. And that just didn't happen. Cubs end up dropping the finale. But can I just say, Marcus Stroman, fantastic first performance for the Cubbies. Again, 5 innings pitched, only 2 hits, only gave up 1 earned run. Thought he could have maybe gone a couple more hitters into that 6th inning. But again, if we're keeping his arm fresh, that's fine. But the bad thing is that the bullpen looked a little shaky. David Robertson got in, he walked the guy, which is just. It's the worst. It's just the worst. Like, I hate when bullpen guys, and it happens. It happens to everybody. But, man, when you start to rack up walks in the bullpen, it just becomes nervy. It does things to your defense. It does things to your hitters. It just has that effect where you're just like, man, these guys aren't going to get it done. So we either got to score a lot or we've got to get out here and play some defense and hope that he gets the ball put in play. But, Robertson walks one, but then he strikes out a guy. He looked decent in that 1 inning. Michael Givens has looked good, throwing the ball real hard. I think, the Cubs have some pieces. Daniel Norris, I thought, had looked good up until that home run that he gave up to Willie Adames. But he struck up 2 in that inning that he pitched, a 1 1/3 inning. Gave up only a hit, but it was that homer that was killer. Bullpen just gave up some cakes, right? Just threw some absolute, what do they call them? I always blank on this. I don't know. Threw up some beans. Absolute beach balls to some of these Brewer hitters, and they just took advantage of it, smashed them into the stands, and the Cubs dropped a game that honestly I thought they should have won. I'm coming out of this kind of disappointed in this game. I know you can't win them all. You can't go 162-0. But, man, the bullpen, without the struggles that, Chavez had, I think you easily take this and you sweep the Brew crew and send them packing. The game did get rained out Friday, so they didn't have a 4th game. That game got moved to May 30th. There's going to be a twin bill set for May 30th when the Brewers come back to Wrigley Field. Those games are going to be 12:05 Central Time and 6:40 Central Time. I think they're still doing the 7-inning doubleheaders. So 7 innings, save some arms this early in the season, especially. You don't want all that. And there's going to be a lot of games, I think, that are going to get postponed. In fact, looking forward, the Pirates and the Cardinals game that was supposed to be played today on getaway day before the Cubs head over to Pittsburgh to play the Pirates. It got delayed and postponed eventually. So they'll be heading to Pittsburgh without having played today. They kind of had that off day where they kind of had that awkward like travel day. But yeah, I mean, overall, Cubs, man, I mean, I don't know if you're going to get this from Justin Steele all season. Kyle Hendricks will come back a little bit towards earth. Stroman looked really freaking good, like he should. Feeling good, like he should. Game over, has pitched really well, has kind of lived up to that contract, and really has looked like a dominant piece in that bullpen, that rotation. The bullpen, again, I think there's some question marks there. And I can kind of read through the roster that the Cubs have named. So again, they've got 28 on their roster. It's trimmed down to 26, I believe, after May. This was all due to the shortened spring training. But pitchers include Jesse Chavez, Scott Efros, Michael Givens, Kyle Hendricks, Chris Martin, Daniel Norris, Ethan Roberts, David Robertson, Michael Rucker, Drew Smiley, Justin Steele, Marcus Stroman, Keegan Thompson, and Rowan Wick. Out of those guys, Chavez pitched, Scott Efros pitched. Scott looked great. He's got a real funky delivery. Michael Givens looked pretty good. Kyle Hendricks looked great. Chris Martin pitched. I didn't realize how massive he was. He's like 6'7", 6'8". I don't know. Double check me on that. But he's massive. Daniel Norris, I thought, looked good until he gave up that bomb to Willie Adames. Ethan Roberts made his debut. Freaking awesome. He got a double play ball. It was great. The double play, I think it was the double play ball, or maybe it was the one before the double play ball. They hit one back at the mound, and he almost like touches it with his bare hand, which you shouldn't do ever as a pitcher. One, you break your fingers, and two, you deflect it and cause all sorts of issues for the middle of the infield. But he did it. Didn't give up any runs. Debut. I love it. Small little guy, but man, can he throw the baseball? I'm looking forward to that. I think eventually he could be one of those guys that you 8th or 9th inning setup guy or closer. I think he's got kind of that like adrenaline junkie kind of thing going on for him. David Robertson, I thought looked great. Needs to shore up on some of the walks. Don't give as many walks, but he's looked good after not pitching over the last couple of years due to some injuries. I don't believe we saw Michael Rucker at all. Just double check. Yeah, no Michael Rucker. So we didn't see him throw. And I do believe he is on this is still updated. This was updated a couple days ago. Catchers, Wilson Contreras. Oh, sorry, I didn't finish out the thing. Stroman threw well. Steele threw really well. Keegan Thompson looked fantastic. That could be huge for the Cubs. If they can get Ethan Roberts, Keegan Thompson, David Robertson to throw well, if you get Scott Efros throwing like he was throwing, Michael Givens is going to give you some good innings. Daniel Norris is going to give you some good innings. If Jesse can get that turned around and not end up being one of those guys that's got like a 6.7 ERA going into like May, that could be good. Just kind of turn that around and get that back down. And he's always kind of bounced back. So hopefully that's the case. And then if you get Rowan Wick kind of throwing like he hit it a couple of years ago, I mean, this bullpen could turn out to be kind of scary. Not guys that throw it tremendously hard, but guys that are going to get you ground balls, get you strikes. All veterans, except for really Keegan and Ethan, guys that have thrown before. So Scott Efros as well. But I mean, just a bullpen that has a nice mix, has a nice little core group. I think if you're the Cubs, maybe towards the deadline, you kind of look at what kind of pieces aren't working. Might add, if they're playing this well, you add some arms, whether it be in the starting rotation or that back end. You're going to get Alec Mills back, so that'll probably push Drew Smiley back. Alec Mills has played catch, and he threw a simulated game. I think they're expecting him to throw against the Rockies. I think we got the 2 games against Pittsburgh, and then they're going to head off to the Rockies and play in, I'll call it Mile High, Coors Field, which honestly is probably the worst case scenario for anybody coming back from an injury. But the Cubs are going to have to go out there and play. I want to say they play. Let me double check this because I don't want to be wrong. It's 2 against the Pirates. And I think 4, I believe, against Colorado. Yeah, 4 against Colorado. And then they come back home to play Tampa. So, a tough little stretch here. The Pirates, but Colorado for it away in Coors is never going to be a fun time. And then having to come back and play against a Tampa Bay Rays team that is just a good team should be a lot of fun. And over the next couple of weeks, man, we should really kind of see where this Cubs team stands. But so far, I'm really loving it. Loving the pitching that they've gotten. Over the last couple of games, 3 games, they've had a 3.0 ERA amongst all their pitchers. So that's been a really good sign. Another really good sign, I guess, if you're looking at certain things, they really just give up a lot of weak contact. Guys really just getting ground balls, inducing a lot of double plays. I think they lead the league in double plays that the Cubs defense. So that's solid. That's the other thing. Their defense looks solid as heck too. And I think it gets even better as guys get healthy. It'll be interesting to kind of see where the Cubs fall as far as defensive numbers, defensive efficiency, because they look really good. The middle infield is great with Nico Horner playing at the middle with Nick Madrigal. Just got to get Nick hitting and all be set up there in the middle infield. But just really been impressed so far with everything the Cubs did this weekend. And then kind of filling out the rest of the roster. I'll just kind of go through the rest of the roster that was announced before the game and before or after I had recorded. They released it on opening day. Wilson Contreras and Yan Gomes. Then you got infielders Nico Horner, Nick Madrigal, Alfonso Rivas, Frank Schwindel, Jonathan Villar, and Patrick Wisdom. And then the outfield, you got Clint Frazier, Ian Happ, Michael Hermosillo, Jason Hayward, Rafael Ortega, and Seiya Suzuki. So that is the Cubs' 28-man roster currently. They'll trim it down again in May as they start. I want to say they start May is when they cut it down. So that the beginning of May is when they'll cut that down to, I think, the 26th. So it should be interesting. It should be an interesting follow just to kind of see who stays up, who goes back down, and what pieces kind of fill in over the next couple of weeks. You're going to get Alec Mills back, which is really good. Kind of shores up some of those arms that are veteran arms. So I'm looking for that. And then Wade Miley, he threw flat ground, I think, just light toss. I think the projected timeline that I had read was the beginning of May series. For first couple series in that first week of May is kind of what they're shooting for. Hopefully it's nothing, that turns into a nagging issue that's just constant, but hopefully, it's something that the Cubs can kind of manage. And with Wade being a little bit older, at least on the older side, as far as pitchers are concerned at 35, you really hope he just, can come back and pitch consistently in those 4 and 5 spots. Cause I think you've got a pretty solid rotation if the guys are going to pitch like this. I'm really, really, if I had to take one thing away from pitching and hitting from this series, I'm looking at obviously Seiya Suzuki. His patience is infectious. It makes the guys around him patient. They see him working the account, and then they'll do the exact same thing. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing how that progresses. And he just looks so comfortable to play. The real hard stuff from Woodruff and Corbin Burns wasn't overwhelming. So that was good news because that can happen sometimes when these Japanese guys comes over and they're trying to hit these pitchers that are throwing 98, 99 because they don't see that quite often in Japan. And then the other thing that I'm really looking forward to, Justin Steele, 26 years old, through probably the best game of the weekend, I would say. If you kind of go back and look, Kyle was really good, but I thought Justin just really did a nice job. He didn't have his ace stuff either. A couple of his off speed, I know his slider, he had a hard time locating at times, but it just seemed like he was just inducing weak contact. And again, I say John Lester light because he hits the outside corner. He's able to slide piece that thing back into the back end of the strike zone and kind of backdoor guys. Drops off a changeup and can throw that fastball, kind of like a cut fastball too at times. Coming in from that left side, he's devastating on hitters. Doesn't throw real hard, but you can just tell he knows how to work the zone, work the hitters. kind of work his counts too, mix in some pitches. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do over an extended period of starting, and especially in between Hendricks and Stroman. I feel like that elevates the guy, right? He's 26. It's the first real big chance here to really prove what he's got, and I think he's really done a fantastic job just filling into that second spot, really not missing a beat. But again, great series, 2 from the Brewers at Wrigley Field to open the season against 2 of the best pitchers in the league, maybe top 3 pitchers out of the 25 or top 20, out of the top 25, you get at least 3, maybe with Freddie Peralta is pitching as well as he had. Again, really nice job, and really just silenced the Brewers themselves, which was really great to see. Looking at the stats, Wilson Contreras struggled. And I think part of that, kind of getting used to catching all these new guys. Another thing, too, I think with Wilson, Wilson always seems to start pretty slow. I feel like he always starts real slow, but then kind of comes out of the gate quickly and has a real nice stretch as it gets a little bit warmer. He hit 167. He's the good thing is his on-base percentage is really good, 0.444 on-base percentage. So I thought that looked good, but I think the command of his, staff looked phenomenal. He's not using the pitch comm, so he's using the traditional signs. There was some talk about that, and Jan Gomes did a really nice job with Stroman. But in the 2 games that Wilson saw, I thought, the plate discipline, it's typical of Wilson, but I think he's just so valuable defensively that, this guy ends up being one of the best catchers in the league. Frank Schwindel, 200. Out of the guys, he was probably the one that kind of didn't look great. He looked kind of underwhelming. Didn't hit it real hard either when he did hit it. Had 2 hits and 10 at bats in 11 plate appearances. He did have an RBI. He walked once, struck out 3 times. So some improvement needed there. Didn't really hit the ball very hard. Nick Madrigal struggled, 11 at bats with just 1 hit. Did score a run and did walk. Not really much there. I think a guy that's been hurt, tore his hamstring last year, is just kind of getting back into the fold of playing real baseball again. And it's tough to hit in April with Wrigley. It really is, as you can kind of see with some of the other guys' numbers. Nico Horner, besides the big smash, didn't really hit that well. 2 hits and 11 at bats. He was hitting 9th for David. Struck out twice. Not much there. Again, 2 had been kind of plagued with injuries last year. Didn't get a lot of run. So hoping that he can kind of turn that around. If you can turn those 2 guys into like a 250, 260, that'd be pretty decent. I think Madrigal, people are expecting more of like 280, 290. I guess we'll see. It was in a short time that he hit in that 300 range for the Sox before he got hurt. But hopefully that's where he gets back to, because this lineup becomes a whole different thing with him hitting the baseball. Patrick Wisdom, 4 strikeouts. Again, that's probably where you're going to be most concerned. If you're looking at the stats, you want to look at his strikeout rate. Struck out 4 times out of the 11 plate appearances that he had, so not great. Had only just the 1 hit. Didn't really look that comfortable hitting. He and Frank didn't really look great this series. On the flip side, the best player in this whole series was Ian Happ. It's too bad he got hurt on Sunday, because I think the Cubs, maybe shake out another run or so with Ian in the line, just because he's scorching hot, 714 with a .778 on-base percentage, the slugging plus, the on-base plus slugging, 1.778, tearing the cover off the ball, 5 hits, 2 doubles. He almost had a homer. He smashed the double, and I think Lorenzo Cain thought it was gone, but really hit the ball well. Jason Hayward, he hit 375, had 3 hits and 8 AB, so pretty good series from Jason. Really good defensively, as always, for Jason. And then Seiya Suzuki. Seiya had 3 hits and the 8 official at-bats. He did have 6 RBIs, which led the series, obviously, with 6. And he had 4 base on balls. Did strike out 4 times, but again, like I said, he'll make up with it with the walks that he takes. He's just so patient. There was one that was definitely a ball in the outside corner he took. And just the umps zone had gotten a little extended there. and Seiya gets rung up looking. But again, his patience, his determination, his defense looks good. I think overall the Cubs got a heck of a signing there in Seiya Suzuki, the 27-year-old right fielder. Rafael Ortega looked really good, I thought, as the DH. Had 6 at-bats. He had 1 hit, but the biggest thing with Rafael, he took 4 walks. At the top of the lineup, I think he had walked the first 3. I think he walked every single time that he led off the game. That might be wrong, depending on whatever I'm making up here. But I believe he did. I think he started every single game with a walk, leadoff walk. And although he hit 167, he did get on base a ton, which is great. 500 on base percentage, which is phenomenal. Again, if he's going to be that kind of just presence there that's going to get on base, and I mean, he goes, we go, right? I mean, that's the way we thought of when Dexter was playing. And then you guys had, we had Clint Frazier take 4 at-bats. He had a hit. We also had Jonathan Villar, who was hitless in the 4 at-bats, did score a run. Yan Gomes had 1 hit. I thought he made some pretty good contact when he did hit. Michael Hermosillo, he had 2 at-bats. Didn't do too much. And then Alfonso Rivas had the 1 hit and 2 at-bats because both Rivas, Rivas and Villar played on Sunday, and Schwindel and Patrick Wisdom started on the bench. Both of them later came on, but the other 2 did start the games. Rivas looked good defensively. Villar, not much there. Really good veteran presence to have. I've always loved watching him from a distance. So anything he adds is just cherry on top of the cake, I think. So let's look ahead, right? Let's look ahead to the Pittsburgh Pirates series. It's only a 2-gamer, so we are going to Pittsburgh to play them at PNC Park. The Pirates and the Cardinals squared off. The Cardinals absolutely slaughtered them the first 2 games, 9-0, 6-2. But the Pittsburgh Pirates did score 9 and beat them 9-4 in the, I guess what was now the getaway game on Sunday, and did not play today due to a rain out. So they'll come in and face the Cubbies. And for that Cubs series, I'm looking forward to a couple things. Looking forward to Seiya Suzuki. Looking forward to seeing if the end of this Cubs rotation can get things going, because I do think that this is going to be the make or break point of the Cubs season. Can they get good quality starts from a guy like Drew Smyly? When he is pitching, when Alec Mills does return, can Alec Mills kind of slot into those spots and also have effective innings thrown? And I think that's ultimately what the Cubs are going to be looking for. They're going to be looking for those guys that come in and just can throw them some innings, keep them in ball games. And I think that was tough for them last year, because I think there were times where they wish they had some more arms that were more consistent. But again, when you got younger guys coming through the systems trying to figure out how they're going to do throwing the baseball, it's going to be a little bit tougher. But yeah, I mean, if you look into the Pirates series, you got looks like Kyle Hendricks is going to be slated for, because of the weird day off because of the rain, and then today's day off, you're going to be looking at, which is good for Kyle. He pitched really well at PNC. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I'm pretty sure his numbers are almost dominant at PNC from what I can remember. I'll see if I can pull that up now. But you're going to see. Why am I blanking all of a sudden? You're going to see Drew Smyly pitching. Thank you. Against former Cubby Jose Quintana. And Jose Quintana has not been good since he's left. He's had some very rocky years over the last couple of years. Since 2019, he hasn't posted anything below a 4.5 ERA. And in fact, last year with the Texas Rangers with the Los Angeles Angels had posted a 6.75 ERA. With the Giants wasn't much better at 4.66. Really has struggled finding that consistency at the age of 33. And I think the Cubs are favored this kind of matchup. I mean, you got a left-handed hitter. You're going to be able to see some of these righty bats that the Cubs have. I think you'll see maybe Jason kind of spelled here, Armacio maybe getting some starts here in the outfield because of Jose Quintana and the Pirates. And then I think looking at the Cubs lineup too, I think you're going to see some other guys get some chances here to kind of make an impact. JT Brubaker is going to go against Kyle Hendricks. He was their opening day starter. And he actually got shelled against the Cardinals. Not a real good start for JT. 1 loss, 12 ERA, and he only struck out 2, only threw 3 innings. So I guess the benefit is a well-rested JT Brubaker, but not great, I don't think, for the Buccos as far as trying to face Kyle Hendricks and what appears to be a good situation for Kyle just because of how well he's thrown. I'm going to see if I can find his splits for ballparks, but if I can't find it, I might just come back and try to find it later. Yeah. I'm not going to be able to find it, I don't think, this quickly. Maybe pitcher comparison. No, split finder. Let's see if I can find it, just because I'm interested to kind of see how Kyle does as far as Pittsburgh is concerned. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'll be able to find it this quickly. All right, maybe next time. But again, I think when you're going into this game and going into this series, 2-game series with the Buccos, you got to split at least. You got to grab a game. If you can grab 2 here, that'd be great. I mean, if you go into the Colorado series and you're going to be up 4-1 or even 3-2, I mean, that's a pretty good start to the season, I'd say. That Colorado series, I think, is going to be tough just because the pitching is always a nightmare. You just don't know what you're going to get in Colorado. So I'm kind of looking forward to those pitching matchups that are coming. Stroman's going to get to throw out there. You're also going to get to see Justin Steele throw, Alec Mills, it sounds like, and also Drew Smiley. So I think those are guys that you look at and go, okay, I like my chances, but again, you never know with Colorado. We'll get to see old friend KB out there playing, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun just because I don't know if we've seen him. Yeah, he came to Wrigley with the Giants, I want to say, and then we could see him again with Colorado and his new boys out there in the Rockies. So that'll be a lot of fun. If you're looking at Pittsburgh, as far as their hitting is concerned, guys are hitting pretty well. They've had a lot of chances too. The Cardinals and Pittsburgh series was kind of bloodbath as far as runs were scored. So you got guys like Roberto Perez, Diego Castillo, Kevin Newman, Ke'Bryan Hayes that just signed a contract. He's looked good to start the season. He's hitting 400. He's got the 4 hits, a double, an RBI. So if I'm looking at guys in this lineup, honestly, it's Ke'Bryan Hayes. I'm looking at Brian Reynolds as somebody that can rake sometimes. Michael Chavis has hit really well as well. They got Jake Marisnick too. They got Vogelbach as well, the Coke machine with arms. He's always good for hitting the ball a long way when he does. So yeah, some pretty good talent. I feel young talent too. Diego Castillo, he's looked good this season. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this series because you kind of see some younger guys with the Pirates. Kind of a new fresh take on the Pirates, which is exciting because they've just kind of been lately. So yeah, looking forward to that. And looking forward to the next couple of series. If you're looking ahead, the Cubs have, like I said, Pittsburgh, Colorado, and then they come back home and play the Tampa Bay Rays, which will be a great series. If you're able to get out there to that one, it's at Wrigley. That'll be a blast. 7:40 starts against Tampa Bay, so that'd be about 6:40 Central Time, and then they head back. Or they'll stay home and play Pittsburgh for 4 before they head out for a really tough away stretch where they have to go play the defending champions Atlanta Braves and Milwaukee, and then head back home. That's a brutal stretch. It goes Atlanta away, Milwaukee away for 3, Chicago White Sox at home for 2, and then they host the Dodgers, the Cubbies do, and then they have to go out to San Diego and then stay in Arizona. So that's a brutal stretch up until about the middle of May. So kind of looking forward to those kind of series just to see how the Cubbies stack up at middle of May and see where we are sitting in the standings. The Brewers did lose, so they are now 1-3. Yeah, 1-3. They lost the O's. Cubbies on top of the division. What is that all about, huh? That's fun. So tied with the St. Louis Cardinals. Reds didn't look so good against the Braves. They're going to struggle quite a bit, I think, with pitching. The Braves did look good. I think the Braves took. Did the Reds take 2 from Atlanta? Yeah, they did. They took 2, lost 2. But they were okay. Like, I think the Cubs are better. Cardinals looked good. I thought their pitching is timeless. They always find pitching. It's just what they do. Their offense looked to be firing on all cylinders, which is terrifying. Tyler O'Neill looked great, but overall, man, I mean, this is probably the most ideal start. We should have just won that game, and then we'd been flying high with the Cubbies. So, yeah, I mean, looking forward to it. We're in first place in our division, 2-1. I know it's early sample size, but looking forward to the next couple of series because I think we can gain some ground here. I think we can take at least one, if not both, on the road against the Pirates. I think you can take at least 2, if not 3, from the Colorado Rockies. And that'd be a great start to the season. I mean, really looking forward to those series after where they play Tampa, they host the Dodgers, they had to play the Braves, they play Milwaukee again. Like, those are going to be some fun times coming up here in the month of May, end of April. So other than that, it's been a lot of fun. Man, we talked for a while here, just kind of randomly jumping throughout the games. Hopefully I can kind of find better flow to the system here whenever we get further into the series. The next one that I'll probably do right after the Pirates series. So I guess Wednesday or Thursday, I'll record an episode for the 2-game set in They're in Pittsburgh, and maybe talk some of the Colorado game if it's going on currently during that time, because I do know I have an early start time coming up. They play the first game, I think, at 8:40 Eastern time. The second one's at like 12:30 something Eastern time. And then I think the rest of it's at 8:40, 7:40 Central. So looking forward to talking Cubbies. And this has been a lot of fun. This has been great watching Stroman come over. It's been great seeing Seiya Suzuki. Ian Happ's been absolutely great. Ethan Roberts has been fun to watch when he's played. Overall, I'm really happy with this Cubs team and the way that it's going, the direction that it's going. It's an exciting team. They're building a good team. Love the patience. And if they can keep that going, the Cubs could be something here in 2022. Thanks for joining me for this long-winded episode. I can't wait to talk more Cubs, but so far so good. 2-1 heading into the series with the Pittsburgh Pirates, hoping we can grab 2. And I will talk to you guys, I guess, on Wednesday, Thursday-ish. So I'll see you guys then, and thanks for listening. Make sure to rate, subscribe, follow us at Cubs Courier over on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Rating the podcast helps other Cub fans like you find me and find this channel. If you're hoping to jump on at some point, I'm willing to have other people come on and be a temporary co-host and maybe a permanent co-host eventually. So I'm not just talking to myself, and I can actually hydrate as I'm talking about the Cubs. So thank you for listening, and I will see you guys again next time. Go Cubs, go!